Good afternoon and welcome to our December Oklahoma Venture Forum. We are super excited to have each and every one of you here. And without further ado, those of you that are joining us over Zoom, please go ahead and at this time set your view to speaker view so that you have the absolute best viewing experience for today. And for those of you that are already in the room, you already have speaker view, so there's nothing to do, except I probably will need to take myself off of mute at some point today. It doesn't matter if you're on Zoom or in person, being on mute occasionally happens. One other housekeeping item, if you are on the executive committee, please remember that we have a meeting immediately following today's luncheon, and that'll be upstairs. If you're an executive committee member and you're joining us by Zoom, please check your email. Shay has sent you a separate link for that meeting. Today's program, we have two very special opportunities for you. The first is we're going to hear a pitch presentation, and then Allison and Mike are going to join us, and we're going to actually talk about the importance of intellectual property. It's a subject that we have not talked about in several years, and it is now more timely than ever. So, right now, do I have any guests joining us today? If you are a guest, please stand. And then OVF members, please join me in giving our guest a round of applause. And we would also be amiss if we didn't thank a couple of people for their sponsorship. I want to thank Insurica. They are our newsletter sponsor. They are responsible for making sure that you get a great newsletter with very relevant content for you and your organization. Also, this is the important one for today. I want to thank our dessert sponsor. They're the ones that brought you the nice sugary sweets, and that is Insperity. So Insurica and Insperity, thank you so much for your continued sponsorship of the Oklahoma Venture Forum. Good job. Also want to remind you that we have our Oklahoma Venture Forum podcast. Kyle does a fantastic job interviewing our speakers for each meeting, and that is a great opportunity to get a more detailed look or access into who they are, their business, and the knowledge that they bring. So I want to make sure that we thank Kyle for doing that for us each and every month, and go to any place that you listen to podcasts on, and you can find the Oklahoma Venture Forum podcast. And now that you have probably heard enough from me, I want to invite today's pitch presenter to the podium. So please help me welcome Mike Stoddard. Oh, Mark, with Easy Tip.
All right, thank you. How's everybody doing out there today? Hope well. This is pretty awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So, my name is Mark Stoddard. I'm a Special Forces combat veteran. My company, Easy Tip, will make it easier for all tip workers to earn and keep more tips, and for businesses to save money on tip outs. There are millions of under-tip working musicians and tip workers. Cash tip outs are costly, and it's been this way for decades. Tipping is broken at the cash tip jar and the cash tip out. We will fix this using a web page tip music promotion and tip out service that consolidates all payment methods and deposits tips same or next day into our customers' bank accounts, multiple from one tip in 3 phases. Phase 1 is our Insta-Tip payment service. Phase 2 is our Easy Promote promotion service. And Phase 3 is our virtual tip out service. Our main product is our monthly subscriptions. They're just $15 a month taken from tips, with businesses enrolling their employees by uploading their payroll data or as individual signups. Our Phase 1 print kit enables fast QR code printing using label templates that are ship-free at signup, and this includes coasters that we're going to send. Our Phase 2 QR bag turns the whole bar into a tip jar with 340 printed QR codes on table tents, coasters, stickers, business cards, and will also be shipped free at sign up and can be printed immediately and reordered. Our Easy Tip clip elevates our QR codes to an easily scannable height and affixes to existing mic stands. So super easy, just throw it on any bands or just throw it on their mic stand. We believe 30,000 subscriptions in 2023 is attainable, and that my music industry reputation and experience will jumpstart traction. The timing is excellent as musicians and tipped workers are back after the COVID lockdown. We are a fintech money service business planning to exit to a larger fintech in 5 to 7 years. We believe $85 million in AAR and a 60% net profit margin is doable with a high growth rate to the entire market. Our MVP is our website. The front end of our website is complete, and we've coordinated for the back end build with a Tulsa company with a milestone date of April 1st. We have established relationships with all the vendors that will make our MVP work. We will use Plaid, Payrock, and Dwala, all with established digital relationships, to process tip payments and deposit them into our customers' bank accounts, an industry first. Phase 2 will use Lithic to issue tip cards to our customers. Our tipping taxi process is simple. You sign up, you use the tools, you scan, tip, and bank. We educate and coach along the way and motivate. Based on a recent tipping study and treasury audit of tips, we conservatively estimate nearly a $23 billion U.S. obtainable market. Kind of a key here from one of them is that 52% of tips go unreported. So there's a legitimate market here. We're going to do a full court press to the music industry first, where I'm known with my brand Lava Cable. We're going to send out a one-time op-ed email to 60,000 customers. We're going to partner with bars and nightclubs to recruit new customers. We're going to use social media blitzes and traditional sales methods. We're just going to full-on attack the market. No competitor has traction or dominance in this market. We're going to create a large moat by offering a unique set of services and lower barriers to entry that they do not. We have an experienced team. I have one successful exit. I recently completed the Founders Institute core program, and Jeremy, Gerald, and Josh and I have been working together on different projects with Lava Cable and others for more than 10 years. We're seeking $500,000 pre-seed. This is a little high. To get our tipping taxi going. We need to build the motor and the engine. So right now we're seeking funding to build that back end piece, put the APIs together, and generate revenue. As soon as it launches, it's going to be generating revenue. That concludes my brief. What are your questions?
Who has a question for Mark?
So you mentioned these tips were being recorded. Is this something that you would be using creating the records so that they
Absolutely. We will provide tip reports. So when the customer signs up, they agree to our terms of service. We act as an agent, and they're still responsible for recording those tips. There's no 1099 issuing by us. Yes, sir.
Hold on a second. We've got a mic so that those on Zoom can hear.
Super. So is your customer the actual artist, or is it the bar, or is it both?
It's really both, but primarily the primary customer is all these working musicians. That's where we're going to start, and all tip service workers. So what we want to do is start where I'm familiar and where we can launch it and get the revenue going. And the idea behind the bar piece is that we get, and I got this from being in a restaurant, seeing some QR codes on the table. What we want to do is put QR codes on their tables and partner with them that all it says is tip band. So if the band comes in and they're not part of the Easy Tip, the bar owner's going to go, well, hey, you guys need to link up with Easy Tip.
So the bar owner will pay the $15 a month then, or the musician, either way?
So yeah, not the bar owner. The $15 a month is going to come out of the customer's account. And that's what Plaid will be used for. So as the customers sign up, they'll use Plaid, they'll put their bank account in, it's all secure. And then they'll have, like I said, their own custom page. So we're going to have their picture, a little blurb about them, and as we go through the different phases and get into the promotion piece, we even want to have a piece where it's similar to Facebook, where if you're out watching a live performance and you want to tip, maybe you want to take a picture and leave a comment. So we're going to enable that, where you could leave a comment on their tip page and even add a picture. So they can get some real-time fan interaction. But this all translates into the hospitality and restaurant market as well. And we've done a lot of discovery there. So it's a little bit different angle with that, but what we want to do is start with the music industry and then move into the hospitality and restaurant industry, where, as an example, let's say you go to a hotel, there's an easy tip table tip in your hotel room. So those workers can get extra tips.
Got time for one more question if we have one. Got one?
Yes, sir.
Hold on a second, just bringing you a mic.
Do you have any estimate of how much it might increase the artist's tip for,
Yes.
for any one gig if they're playing a 2-hour, 3-hour
We
gig?
looked at some of the competition that's out there, and we believe we can increase tipping anywhere from 35 to 65%. Yeah, and the
Cover
whole,
their cost.
exactly, and the whole idea is we turn the bar into a tip jar. So part of this is, if you see live music and you see the tip jar up there, a lot of people are reluctant to go up to the tip jar. But if you had a coaster at your table or a little table tent, just scan, and then there's no excuse, because what we want to do is enable every single payment method. So they'll have our payment method first, which requires no membership in anything. But if you as a patron have PayPal, Google Pay, Apple Pay, Venmo, whatever, you can choose that and pay as well.
Awesome. Mark, thank you so
Yep.
much. Please join me in giving our friends
Thank you.
Okay, now we have a great panel discussion for you. So at this time, I would like to invite up Mike and Allison. So please join me in welcoming them. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of intellectual property. And I'm hoping that we're going to leave a little bit of time at the end. So if you have any extra questions that we don't cover today, please feel free to kind of save those and we'll ask them at the end. Okay. So I know we've invited both of you to talk about intellectual property today, but if you wouldn't mind, just give us a brief introduction of what your experience is and your unique perspective. Allison, we'll start with you.
Okay, hey everybody. I'm Allison and I'm the founder of Watkins Conti Products. We are a platform women's healthcare company based in Edmond, Oklahoma. We office at the Francis Tuttle Access Business Innovation Center. And yeah, we have a lot of patents. We've got 3 utility patents in 17 countries, so that's 51 total, and then 2 design patents and 3 trademarks. So.
And that's quite a list. I'm Mike Labrie. I'm an attorney with McAfee and Taft. I went to the University of Oklahoma, got a degree in mechanical engineering, worked for Schlumberger for a short period of time before law school. I practice exclusively in the intellectual property field. And that's it.
Okay, now both of you have different perspectives that we're coming from today. So this first question, I want to start with you, Mike, is when an entrepreneur starts to think about protecting their intellectual property, what are the things that they actually need to consider and what reasons would they have?
Yeah, so maybe one step back, I think it's helpful to maybe give a broad brush on what intellectual property is, so we know what we're talking about. And so intellectual property is patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. It's the non-physical properties that you can buy, sell, trade, license. So patents, there's 2 different types, as Allison mentioned. There's a design patent, which is typically cheaper to get. It does not provide really broad protection. It covers really the shape of something. The more valuable patents are utility patents, and they can cover methods of manufacturing, compositions of matter, methods of doing things. They last for 20 years, and they can have a lot of value to them. So trademarks are the name of your company, the name of your services. There's something similar called trade dress, which is similar concept, kind of the look and feel of certain things. And then you have copyrights. Copyrights are more common in music business, books, but also software. And then you have trade secrets. Trade secrets are basically something that you keep secret. There's nothing you need to file, and as long as you maintain a trade secret, then you own that trade secret, so to speak. So with that kind of backdrop, when entrepreneurs are starting a business or developing a business or growing a business, I think it's important to, keep all of those in mind and be mindful of these assets or potential assets. They may be the lifeblood of your company going forward.
So Allison, I know we have a lot of founders in the audience. When did you decide to engage in actually taking steps to protect your intellectual property, and how did you start the process?
Well, it was whenever I realized that the problem that we were solving impacts 1 in 3 women. I thought, okay, this is a really, really big market. And so I started doing research just on my own, and I just went to, I had already done research on, because I solved a problem for myself in the female pelvic health space for urinary incontinence. And so I had already done a ton of research on what was out there for myself, and then I thought, well, this concept that I've come up with here is really not that brilliant, right? I mean, it's very simple. So I started reading, is there anything else like that on the USPTO website, which is the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and everything is published. If it's been, I believe, filed within 6 months, it's published?
18 months.
18 months, okay. So I looked, I couldn't find any public information, and then I looked through the FDA website to see if there were any clinical trials or anything else out there, and then that's whenever I decided. I actually met with somebody that had patents, and I said, okay, what do I need to do next? And he told me about the provisional patent, which is it's $65, and it's the only thing I would recommend that a founder do themselves. After that, hire lawyers would be my recommendation. But it's kind of like a placeholder for your idea, and then you can have conversations under a non-disclosure agreement while you're developing your final product.
Okay, to me, that seems a little bit daunting. So you talked to another founder that had done it. From there, who else did you go consult with and engage in conversations with?
Well, I mean, after I got a non-disclosure agreement, I went to an attorney and I got a non-disclosure agreement, and then I started having conversations with physicians, because this is, a healthcare product, and asking them, okay, am I even onto something here? Is it worth even pursuing, And then that's when it really started to grow, and then eventually hired attorneys to help build everything out. But I also had a friend who had a husband. We ask people that we trust. And so she recommended who I should speak with on the intellectual property side with the attorneys.
So Mike, from a professional perspective, what should an entrepreneur look for as they go to engage in these first conversations?
Well, I think they have to be practical first. I mean, not everyone has funding immediately, and going to professionals typically costs money. And so there's not a one-size-fits-all, really. As I went through the different types of intellectual property, some are going to be critical to a company. Allison's company, the business model and so forth makes her intellectual property a critical driver. In some businesses, real estate, for example, it may not be critical. And so I think you have to analyze the different types of intellectual property and come up with a game plan that matches what you need to do, what you need to protect to be successful ultimately, and have a plan even if you don't have the budget for it, and then let it play out.
Awesome. So one of the things I think we all talk about is the importance of getting intellectual property. But the one thing is we fail to sometimes have the conversation of it doesn't stop there. It actually then there's some steps that entrepreneurs and teams need to do. So Allison, what are you doing to make sure that your intellectual property is protected?
That's a great question. So one thing that's really interesting is whenever you're writing your patents, and you can write a really broad specification, which is kind of just the outline of the idea, right? And I think one thing that's really valuable is if you can kind of just think really, really outside of the box, expanding upon your initial idea. So for example, our product is a medical grade silicone vaginal insert, so it helps with incontinence, but then I was advised to think about what else could a medical grade silicone vaginal insert do, right? And so you start thinking about secreting medication, and you start thinking about diagnostic opportunities and Bluetooth chips. I mean, you can really go wild with it. And as long as you have it in your specification, then you can come back after you're developing these actual devices and make claims around them, and then that's when you can license technologies. Correct? Am I correct on that? That's so, and so that's one thing that we've done. And then we were very fortunate to have really good friends and family surrounding the concept. So funding we had some, it was good for us. So whenever I had these lawyers really draft everything that I was talking to them about, I looked at it and I thought, well, I don't know how to review and approve this. So I actually hired another law firm that worked on some competing products to try to write around our intellectual property. And now, in hindsight, speaking with one of our board members, Jenny Martell, who's the head of global brand protection for Colgate-Palmolive, she said, I've never seen a patent this thick. And we've got 2 of them, and I think that's really kind of where the value is coming from, is taking that extra look at it and thinking about how to protect it further.
So Mike, what are some other things besides what Allison did that founders should really think about doing to protect their intellectual property once they have the initial protection?
Yeah, and so a couple things that Allison did that were, spot on are, one, including a very broad specification, because it is a common strategy for competitors to try to design around your product. And so if you have a very broad specifications that you can leave a patent pending, you can then ultimately come back and make claims to a competitor's device or to other applications that maybe were the result of a brainstorming. Also, just because you have intellectual property doesn't mean you're done. There's different things you can do with it. You can license it, you can sell it, you can sell your company around it. But it is not a one time and you're done. It's a continuous process. In fact, we advise clients to take a look at your trademarks and your intellectual property portfolio on an annual basis and decide, am I protected adequately? Have I registered all the trademarks I'm using? And those sorts of things. There's also enforcement. So you're sometimes faced with a dilemma of, okay, now somebody's infringing. What do I do? Enforcement is, litigation especially is very expensive. And so you always have to be vigilant to continue to protect and enforce your intellectual property rights in addition to obtaining them.
And I'm just going to echo that. And one thing that we did that was really great, just because I'm just trying to educate myself the whole time, right, is we had a litigation attorney, patent attorney, come on our board as an advisor. So he had these conversations with me kind of, in exchange for restricted stock of the company. So he's got some skin in the game, and has helped me to really, be careful with what I say and who I say it to, and also just thinking about, that freedom to operate side of things.
Okay, I'm going to throw a question in that wasn't on the original list of questions for you. So I personally am somebody that sometimes learns best by the mistakes of myself or mistakes of others. So Allison, as you've gone about protecting your intellectual property, what's one thing you wish you would have done differently? And then Mike, while she's thinking about that, what are some of the common pitfalls you see founders do before they even get to you that cost them time or money? I'll stack the question for both of you.
So I guess what I see most frequently, unlike the process that Allison went through, which seemed very deliberate and thought through and where she had a game plan, oftentimes you see just the opposite, where someone goes out and they have a great idea and they put the product on the market and they hire a manufacturer and they're ready to roll, but they didn't, protect their intellectual property up front or even think through the process. And for example, there's a 1-year bar in the patent world that if you put your product on the market more than a year in advance of filing a patent application, you've waived your right to file it. And so the other pretty frequent error is the same on the trademark front. For example, if you have a trademark and you haven't gone through clearance and protection on it, you roll your company out, it's really successful, and then 3 years, 5 years down the road, you're forced to change your name, which can be devastating. So those are the most typical sorts of pitfalls.
Well, and that also, I mean, so a lot of people don't know this, but it's every country is individual. So you don't, if you have your utility patent in the US, you don't also have it in China. You have to file that as well. Same goes for trademarks. And what I've learned from Ginny Martell is that trademarks in some cases can be more valuable than your patent. So I would say that's one thing, especially in other countries. Like China. So that's one thing that I kind of wish I would have started earlier on, was trademarking our names in other countries earlier. But also because like it's kind of strange to ask people to sign an NDA whenever you're first getting started, you know, and it's like you feel, I don't know, maybe you just don't want to come off as being arrogant or like, you know, especially speaking to doctors, I would say that's something that, you know, I wish I would have known earlier on, is that it's okay, just don't worry about it. Like, just be confident, just do it, you know, because in the end, you will not regret asking people to sign your non-disclosure agreement.
Okay, I'm going to change directions just a little bit because we have a lot of founders in the room, but there's also a number of funders and resource providers. And Allison, you recently shared on LinkedIn a alarming statistic that literally less than 6% of all patents are issued to women. And then in the role with OCAST, I can also say that Oklahoma in general ranks incredibly low for intellectual property filings. So one, how has being a woman in Oklahoma impacted your journey?
Well, I've had to do a lot of traveling. I've had to meet people outside of Oklahoma, just, you know, because there's not a lot of, you know, medical device manufacturing here in Oklahoma for intravaginal products specifically. So, you know, that's been a challenge. But really for me, it has been very personal. That's been so hard for me is because we're talking about vaginal inserts. We're talking to rooms full of men. It's a taboo subject. It's super vulnerable. I mean, I'm telling my story about my own urine leakage. And, you know, and I try not to giggle about it because it's actually really serious. It impacts 1 in 3 women, and like we're changing lives, you know. So I think that for me personally, the biggest challenge, no matter what state I'm in, has been that vulnerability piece, leaning into that, owning it, being confident in it, and then in the end it pays off.
And so Mike, for those of us in the room, what are some ways that we could help encourage those in our ecosystem to seriously consider protecting their IP?
Well, I think part of it is the reality of who files patent applications. So in terms of patent numbers, most of the owners of patents are corporations. And corporations, most of the inventors of the corporations are people that are engineers, hired as engineers and software developers and those sorts of things. And so I think if you're going to try to fix the problem, you're going to have to go back to STEM. You have to increase the graduation rates of females and minorities to, you know, from STEM sort of courses. And in order to do that, I don't think you can do it at the collegiate level. I think it has to start before high school. I think it has to go back to junior high, if not elementary school, to encourage those sorts of course offerings. I mean, we have a similar issue with the patent bar. In order to be a patent attorney, you have to have a technical background and you have to go to law school. And so the numbers are very similar to what you're talking about in terms of the number of females in the profession. But the good news, if you're talking about cup half full versus cup half empty, is that in Oklahoma we have the fourth highest percentage of female patent attorneys in the country after like Massachusetts and Iowa and Delaware, I think. And so it's not all bad news, but there's a lot that can be accomplished. But if you compare it to 1980, where it was probably 0%, then we're at least making progress, but not quite fast enough.
Awesome. We have time for one, maybe two questions. Does anybody have questions for either of the panelists? He will give you the microphone, and
Hey, I just have a comment. I'm a patent holder, and I've also secured a trademark, and this is absolutely awesome. One of the things that I did that I recommend is you can do your USPO search, but I paid for the patent attorney to do that as well before launching. And another thing I did that was very helpful is up front, I got a quote from the patent attorney. How much is this going to cost to go through this initial part of the process? So yeah, those two things were really helpful.
awesome. Thanks for sharing. We've got a question over here with Gary. Oh, okay. And then Janae will round us out. I'll make time for you, Janae.
Mike knows this, but if all else fails and a lawsuit ends up on your desk because you've either infringed on someone's patent or someone's infringed upon you, there is insurance available for that. And
Thank you.
A lot of people think that it's included in your D&O policy, and it's not. There's specific exclusions in there, so it's expensive and it's hard to get. But if all else fails, most larger companies buy it, but it is available if you guys need it.
Gary, is that
Good to
available
know.
from Insurica?
I think it is, yes.
There's also a product called Patent Infringement Abatement Insurance, which allows a small company to go on the offensive, which is kind of an interesting product that's been out for about 15 to 20 years.
Hey, see, this is the great information. Janae, you have our last question.
My question for you guys is, as for startup founders, what's a good way to start protecting IP with limited funds?
I'll take that. You can go to the USPTO website and you can click on provisional patent and you print a cover page, and it's you write a check for $65 and you write out your patent. You draw pictures. I mean, I literally wrote it on notebook paper. It wasn't even typed up. But that gives you your placeholder. And so then you can have conversations. It's actually not even, I understand it's not even reviewed by the patent office. And then you can develop your idea and think about manufacturing and think about all of the different things that you want to include there, and you can have the conversations and then do your vetting process with your IP attorneys and get your budget together and raise your money and all of those things, and it gives you a little bit of time to do that.
Awesome. Please join me in thanking Allison and Mike for their presentation and their time today.
Thank you, Jennifer.
A little token of our appreciation for you, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
And they'll be sitting here up at this table, so when we get to networking time, if you have any questions that they did not have the opportunity to answer today, feel free to make a beeline and ask them here in just a few minutes. So I'll let you go ahead and sit down. Now, I need everybody to pull out your mobile devices for today, scan the QR code, and answer this question for the month. And it's an easy one. It says, do you listen to the OVF podcast? And I will let you know that if you answer that question, no, it will very conveniently take you to a spot where you can now save that link and listen to those wonderful podcasts. Kyle's giving her props back here. Okay. This month, Standards IT is our door prize sponsor. So at this time, I need you to search underneath your chair to see if you have the bright colored sticker. This is the interactive portion to get you up and moving around for the OVF session. Uh-oh. If there's an empty chair next to you, feel free to look. Oh, perfect. Come up here, Brad. Okay, Brad. your Good at gift card, sponsored by Standards IT. Brad, for those that might not know you, tell us who you are and who you represent.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm with Meridian Technology. I don't see it. It's not. I'm with Meridian Technology Center. Been a long-time member. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Congratulations, Brad. Okay, and we've provided just a little bit of networking time. So right now, we're going to open it up. You have 10 minutes to network at your table, talk about what your holiday plans are, and ask any questions of Mike or Allison if you've got them. So we've got 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and do the last closing of the meeting. So everybody, we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. then we're going to wrap this up. I'm letting you die down. Oh, you did it much better this time. Okay, so I want to thank you for joining us for our December Oklahoma Venture Forum. Kyle gave me a friendly reminder that if you would really like to hear the more detailed story from Allison or Mark on how their entrepreneurial journey began and where they are with their business, they have gone into significant detail on this month's podcast, so please go listen to their story and it'll give you an even better picture of where they are. Also want to say we look forward to seeing you on January 11th for our next Oklahoma Venture Forum Power Luncheon. And with that, please go have a safe drive home and have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in 2023. Thank y'all.